Everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a little project using some more of the antler shed surplus that I have. I'm going to do some engraving and do some copper inlay, see how that turns out, and playing around with the laser today. So let's get into it. Alright, I cut a couple bigger sizes and then a couple short or smaller around. I was thinking about doing an inlay with some copper, and the porous won't work very well, so I'm going to try it on this one. But either way, the engraving process will be pretty much the same, so let's go do that. Brush. Get all the burnt up debris out of there. Comes out pretty nice. This one's got a lot of it's very porous. You can obviously see that, but in some spots you can actually see light through the bottom because it's all the way through. But so cool. I did this one. This was at 3 passes. I did this one. I thought I had it at 3 also, but it was actually 2. The detail's still really good. Then I did a couple smaller ones. And obviously the depth is going to be different to some degree because the density, these aren't as porous, so I don't have all the cracks in the high part. I wanted to do a little backfill, but with the way that's got those holes in it, it's going to fill up and then it'll kind of deter from the design. So I'm going to use the little ones just kind of as an example of the process I was going to try anyways, so try that. So we're going to use this one as an experiment. Got all my insides cleaned out. That sounds weird. Alright, so I made this a while ago as an experiment just to see proof of concept. So I'm going to try to do this, replicate the same result today. Let's just use copper powder. Put some super glue in there and put it in and kind of layered it up, then sanded it down. So hopefully I can do the same thing with one of these. So let's give it a whirl. Use some rubber gloves because I do not want super glue all over my hands. And the powder also is kind of a There's some pitting and stuff, but it's a kind of a fairly decent result. I think I might try to drill a little hole through that and make it like a pendant or something to that nature. And I just try to run the sander around the edges to get rid of that sharp edge from just being cut. Even though it's 80 grit and it's fairly aggressive, it doesn't take a lot of material off, as you would think. Just makes it nice and smooth. I think it turned out pretty good. I was thinking before I decided to engrave these, I should have put a piece of tape over the top of it, so when the laser cuts through, you're just left with the opening. So when I go to do the copper, put glue down, it's not getting on everything. And you probably should tape the sides too. That would help the cleanup, because if you want to keep the antler, you know, texture on the outside like that, when you start sanding it, obviously it smooths out and it's gone. But that's one thing to think about. There's some voids. I'm not too concerned about it. It's probably gonna be like a keychain, or you know, like a small pendant kind of thing. Nothing too fancy. It's more of just like a proof of concept that you can fill it up with like a copper. You can buy copper powder. I know they have I think it was brass powder you can buy too. There's other materials you can do the same thing. Or if you wanted to fill it with a resin, kind of like it's too not enough contrast, so I really like the dark one honestly better, even though it's hollow. Yeah, I think it turned out pretty neat. Not sure what I'm going to do with these yet, but I have them now. I might have one thought for this. Had some of this stuff lying around. I've never used it before. I bought it for something and didn't end up using it. Thought maybe I could kind of use that as a filler, or maybe at least to seal some of this up. I have no idea. So let's try to cut that open. Try it out. Yeah, that's not as thin as I expected it to be. Just kind of press it down in there a little bit. I regret everything. Maybe I will do the whole thing so it's almost like glass on the top. Let's try that. What could go wrong? Alright, well, it says let dry 3 hours. Let's set the timer. Alright, so after using this, it's kind of, I'm sure, soaked down into the pores a little bit, but it's got kind of a hard, rubbery feel to it. Now let's check out the other one. Somehow I don't think that that's going to stay. The dark bluish hue kind of filled in all the pores, so it's very cloudy as far as the paw print. The dark in the background sort of makes it hard to see, so hopefully that brightens up over time, maybe. But like I said, it was an experiment, so alright, well, I ended up hitting it with the wire brush. I didn't like the dark. It looked too muddy. The black kind of filling that background, it sort of gives it a more depth, and you can see the definition better. Before it wasn't enough contrast to my liking. Now it just kind of looks like an aged, dirty footprint in copper. For the finishing touches, which I don't know what I'm going to do yet, so let's come up with something. Alright, so on these two bigger ones, just took some eyelets out of an old piece of just like Romex house wiring wire. I'm not sure what gauge it was, but for those two, did that. And then I've got like this assortment of keychain things. So I just did a little key ring on the two smaller ones. I was thinking you could, like on the smaller ones, maybe depending on your style, you could make a zipper pull for like a backpack or a jacket or something like that. And maybe on one of these guys, if you're going for like the rustic look in your house, maybe pull chain for like a ceiling fan or something to that nature. But whatever your taste is, this is just kind of an example of what you could do with some stuff you got laying around. Find an old deer antler, got a piece of copper wire. Obviously the sealer I put on it might not be your taste, but that was just kind of an experiment to see how that turned out. And I can actually put another layer of that on it, so it's a lot more rounded. But good to know for future projects. That stuff seems to work pretty good for that ceiling, almost like a resin look. Well, if you're still here, thanks for watching. Not an overly difficult video today, or project rather, but I think it turned out pretty cool. You might be able to get a similar result using like a stencil and sandblasting, but the laser really makes jobs like this pretty easy. And I just wanted to kind of experiment with more of the copper, but still pretty cool. And over time it'll get its own patina. I really like this one, even though I can't center my key ring. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it and picked up a couple things. Maybe try and experiment yourself. I always find these antler sheds in the spring, so I keep collecting them, and I don't really have any projects for them, so I'm slowly getting to that project part of it. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next time. See ya.